And I would give this film... How many coffee cups will I give this film? Hello, and welcome to Briar's Book and Film. The film I'm going to talk about today is the 1980 classic, The Blues Brothers, directed by John Landis, with a budget of $27.5 million, and it grossed $115.2 million at the box office. Now, this is a really, really good film. It's the soundtrack. The soundtrack is what's the soundtrack is the big bonus of this film. So you've got Dan Aykroyd playing Elwood Blues, and John Belushi plays Joliet Jake, and you've got the Blues Brothers Band, which, as I understand, it was an actual band. So there's various members in the Blues Brothers Band. So let's read through some of the co-stars, some of the cameos, the guest stars in this film, because I've written down on my list so many. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 top-end guest stars. The Reverend is played by James Brown. The Penguin is the Mother Superior at the orphanage where the Blues Brothers lived, is played by Kathleen Freeman. Curtis is played by Cab Calloway. You've got a mystery woman thrown in one of the subplots, played by Carrie Fisher. The corrections officer at the beginning of the film when Joliet Jake is being let out of prison, Frank Oz. Mrs. Murphy, she's the wife of Matt Guitar Murphy, one of the Blues Brothers Band. Aretha Franklin. You've got Aretha Franklin. I mean, Aretha Franklin. Burton Mercer, a corrections officer, is played by John Candy. You've got John Candy going on. Tucker McElroy is played by Charles Napier, him with the square jaw, the rugged good looks. You remember him. If you Google Charles Napier, you'll know what I'm talking about. Shaka Khan is in there as a choir soloist. You've got the head Nazi from the Illinois Nazis, it'll become clear in a minute, played by Henry Gibson. And then, as if that's not enough, as if having James Brown, Cab Calloway, Shaka Khan, and Aretha Franklin, you've got Ray Charles in there as well. Ray Charles. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. Ray Charles. I mean, that is a fantastic lineup of guest stars right there. Ray Charles, he plays Ray from Ray's Music Exchange, where they go because they need some instruments. Anyway, so we start off with Joliet Jake. It's sort of a speechless. There's no dialogue. It's just Joliet Jake being, they turn the key, they open the cell door, you sort of film. They're filmed their footsteps walking down the corridor of the prison, along the landing, and through various gates and doors and everything. And meanwhile, outside in the Bluesmobile is Elwood waiting. And we go through the whole scene of Jake being marched through the prison to be released, and then he goes to the desk where all his possessions are returned to him, his hat and his clothes and his prophylactic used, one prophylactic unused, that sort of thing. They give him all $12 in change. They give him all his stuff back. He goes outside from prison, and Elwood is waiting. The new Bluesmobile is an old police car, a 1974 Dodge, something great big American police car, all battered and rough, and Now there's lots of things happen in this film, and the Blues Brothers are just so nonchalant about it all. It's just a case of, well, no, that happened. For instance, to show off the Bluesmobile's power and handling and everything, Elwood decides to jump. There's a bridge, one of the ones that raise at each end. The bridge is like that, and then it raises, and Elwood jumps it, and they land and they carry on driving. And Jake says, "Yeah, it's got good acceleration. Yeah, yeah, fix the cigarette lighter. They've just jumped a bridge, but fix the cigarette lighter." So then they go see the Penguin, which is the Mother Superior at the orphanage where they were raised. Because Elwood says, "Well, you promised to visit the Penguin the day you got out." And he says, "Oh, I don't care about that. I'm not doing that." And Elwood says, quite rightly, "You can't lie to a nun." So grudgingly, Jake goes along. They visit the Penguin. The Penguin tells them that the orphanage will be shut down unless they can raise $5,000 to pay the tax bill. $5,000 in 1980 works out to be $20,000 thereabouts today. So Jake says, "Well, don't worry, we'll have it for you in the morning. See you later." And she says, "No, I'm not having your dirty, filthy, stolen money." So Jake sort of says, "Well, you're really up the creek." And, the Penguin says, "What was that? What did he say?" Because he swears. And he says, "You told me you need money. I offered to go and get the money. You told me to keep my money. So you really up the creek." And she says, "Yeah, I thought so." So then she gives him a clump with a ruler, a big meter stick. And then, of course, Elwood exclaims, uses swear words. So she gives him a dig with the, he said, "Jesus Christ." So he gets a dig, and then there's more swearing, and then she ends up just bashing the pair of them with the meter stick. And so then Elwood does a runner. Jake can't get out of they're sat in a little school desk with the seats, the all-in-one thing. So Jake ends up crashing down the stairs. Mother Superior, the Penguin, says, "Don't come back until you've redeemed yourself," and then sort of mysteriously glides back in the room. Anyway, so then we meet Curtis, played by Cab Calloway, and he says, "Look, they'll send the Mother Superior to the missions, probably to Africa, and they'll just put me on the street, because what's another black man on the street? It doesn't matter." So Curtis advises the brothers to go to church. Go to the church. You need to be reconnected with God, sort of thing. That's where they encounter, I think his name's Reverend Cleophas, played by James Brown. You've got James Brown. So they go to church, and then Jake has an epiphany. To get the money, they'll get the band back together. We'll get the band. And so anyway, so he has this epiphany. It is a musical comedy. It is a musical comedy, and there's lots of singing and dance routines and that sort of thing. It's a really good film, though. Don't let the musical aspect put you off. So anyway, so then they decide, we'll get the band back together, but now we've got to track down all the Blues Brothers band, which isn't as easy as it sounds. So they set out on this mission from God. They're on a mission from God. Let's see. So then they're on their way to try and find the various members. Meanwhile, you've got a subplot. You've got the subplot of the mystery woman, played by Carrie Fisher. They go back to Elwood's house. They go back to Elwood's apartment, his little seedy apartment. The mystery woman sees them the next morning. Just as let's have a think. Right at the very start, I've gone out of sequence. Right at the very start, Elwood runs a red light, and he gets stopped by these two policemen. And he gets stopped by the two policemen, and then he does a runner, and then there's a crash, and they can't. And so they're after him now. They're after him. So they enroll the help of Burton Mercer, and just as they're going to Elwood's apartment, the mystery woman sets off an explosion that blows up the building, and all comes crashing down around Jake and Elwood and the two policemen and Burton Mercer. And, once all the dust has settled and there's bricks and rubble everywhere, the Blues Brothers appear, sort of, sweeping themselves off, moving the bricks. And Elwood says, 9 o'clock, time to go to work. And off they go. They're not at all worried about being blown up. So anyway, the policemen are not impressed because they've been bested by Elwood twice now. So that's one set of enemies. On their travels to reform the band, they encounter the Illinois Nazis, the head Nazi played by Henry Gibson, and they're blocking the road because they've won the right to march. So Elwood decides, well, I'm not sitting here waiting for these idiots to do their fascist march, protest, demonstration, whatever it might be. So he drives along, and they're standing on a bridge, and they all have to jump into the river to avoid Elwood. So that's another set of enemies that they've just seemed to go around gathering enemies as they go. They go to Matt Guitar Murphy's cafe where he works with the saxophone player. I think it's Lou Marini. There's a song routine there with Aretha Franklin. So now they've got Blue Lou and Matt Guitar Murphy, and Aretha is left. Mrs. Murphy. She's not been given a first name. He's just left bereft, And so anyway, so then they get the rest of the band. They kind of find a gig to earn some money to get the $5,000, and they go to Bob's Country Bunker. Now the clue is in the name, isn't it? Country. And they go in because they're going to blag it. And Jake says, "So what sort of music do you normally have here?" And the lady at the bar says, "Oh, we have both kinds. We have country and western." So being a blues band, that doesn't go over well, but they sort of wriggle out of it. Meanwhile, they've run up an enormous bar tab because the first beer was free. So we thought the beer was complimentary. And Bob says, no, that's not the case at all. You owe me lots of money. And so he says, I'll go and get a check from the car. As they go into the car, they encounter the band that was supposed to, the Good Old Boys, led by Charles Napier, that was supposed to be playing, but they turn up supremely late. So Jake blags it. He sort of wriggles his way out of there, and they end up doing a runner from Bob's Country Bunker without paying the bill, without taking any money. And so then Tucker McElroy gives chase with the band in the Winnebago and Bob. So the original policemen are sitting behind a big billboard, like they do, like Plod do. And, Jake and Elwood go screaming by because Tucker McElroy is shooting at them and they're being chased. So the police say, "There's that car again, there's that Dodge, let's go." So as the policemen pull out from behind the billboard, they crash into the Winnebago. That tips over and crashes, and so the policemen are not happy about that. The Good Old Boys are not happy about that. Bob from the Country Bunker's not happy about that. This is what they do, and they go round. Also, I've gone out of sequence again because I've got so excited. When they're going to make a phone call at a petrol station, the mystery woman appears with an enormous flamethrower and blows up a propane tank, and the phone box goes up in the air, 300 feet, and then comes crashing down, lands on its side with the Blues Brothers in it, and the change is spilled all over the floor. And Elwood says, "Hey, there's got to be like $12 worth of change here," and they start picking it up. They're just so nonchalant about all these things that happen, these misadventures. So anyway, and of course, this is only a brief summary of the film. This is not line by line. They're on a mission from God. They've got to raise this money, and they've got to have it in the tax office that's their mission. So now let's have a think. So they've got Bob from the country bunker after them. The good old boys are after them. The two policemen are after them. Bert and Mercer's after them. The Illinois Nazis are after them. The Illinois Nazis, they swear death to the Blues Brothers. So, so they're going along. And anyway, so we end up with a sort of bit of blackmail on a booking agent, Maurice Line. They blackmail him into giving them a gig at this big, beautiful place they used to play years ago, but the rest of the band are not too keen, and the Blues Brothers have now got Plod looking out for them. There's, hundreds of police cars, hundreds of policemen. So they sneak into the gig, which is where we get a turn from Cab Calloway singing Minnie the Moocher. It starts off and he's just in a black suit with sunglasses and very much like the Blues Brothers. And then it sort of transforms into an old-timey, an old-timey sort of review with he's wearing a white suit and he's, and he looks a silk shirt and he looks the part. All the band are dressed in white and they've got the white risers in front of them and everything. So the song finishes, we go back to how it was, and Curtis is in his scruffy black suit and his sunglasses and his scruffy black hat. So the Blues Brothers get in, they start the gig, the show, and the crowd are not too impressed. Meanwhile, the good old boys are waiting in the audience. There's policemen waiting in the audience, the two policemen that have been turned over twice already. Bert and Mercer's waiting. So the Blues Brothers have spotted all this, of course, and they decide they're going to make a break for it. And as they go out in the wings and they encounter a man who gives them a $10,000 advance on an album. And so Jake says, well, right, we're going to keep $5,000, give X amount to Raise Music Exchange and give this to the rest of the band and divvy it up. And they break out. They end up in some tunnels underneath. Of course, this is only a brief summary. This is not a line by line, scene by scene thing. So they end up in some tunnels where the mystery woman turns out to be Joliet Jake's ex-girlfriend, who he was ex-fiance. He was going to marry and then let down at the last minute. And she starts shooting up with an AK-47. And he says, oh, no, baby, no, my car had a flat tire and, I got kidnapped by aliens and this happened and that happened and it wasn't my fault and I really meant it and, So she sort of forgives him. He gives her a kiss and then throws her on the ground. So she starts shooting. Meanwhile, the police upstairs have heard all the shooting and commotion. So they all run out. And then we get into one of the biggest car chases of all time. There's a mega police car chase which destroyed 103 police cars, a record that was held until the Blues Brothers 2000 broke it. 103 police cars were destroyed. The good old boys are giving chase as well. The police give chase. The good old boys give chase with Bob from the country bunker. But Elwood has already glued the accelerator pedal down. So Tucker McElroy's boot gets stuck and he can't stop accelerating and then they have a crash. Then there's an enormous pile-up with the police cars. They're making their way to Chicago where the tax office is. They've got to get there no matter what. And it actually follows a mega police chase through the city centre, but apparently they did reach speeds of 118 miles an hour. So if anybody thinks those are sped up or anything, apparently they really are authentic drive-bys. So anyway, so we reach a scene where the police dispatch office says, maintain pursuit of the Blues Brothers. We've got to catch them, sort of thing. And after the mega pile-up, he says, unnecessary use of violence in the apprehension of the Blues Brothers has been approved. And, So they don't care what happens now. As they're getting into the tax office, we see boat police, we've got the National Guard, we've got the army, we've got millions of policemen, police cars are all sort of getting in to chase after them and apprehend them. They've got SWAT teams abseiling from the roof of the building. The Blues Brothers, they get in the lift. They sabotage the lift at the top while the policemen, because there's only one lift in the whole building apparently. So just as they've paid the tax bill and the man stamps the receipt, the cuffs get put on, and they look around and there's a room full of policemen, an army and everything with guns pointed at them. And they've been caught. And the next scene is the Blues Brothers and the Blues Brothers band in jail performing Jailhouse Rock. Jailhouse Rock. Now, some questions. Could you watch this film with your gran in the room? Absolutely, definitely yes. You definitely could watch this film with your gran in the room. There's no real profanity. There's nothing adult in nature. There's no smut, there's no profanity. It's a good, clean film. Yeah, 5 coffee cups is what it's going to get. That's a solid 5 as well. That's solid 5. It's just a shame that James Brown, Aretha Franklin, and Ray Charles don't actually ever do a scene together. If they did a scene where the 3 of them was in it, that'd push it over right to the moon. But they don't perform any scenes together. So there you go. So the Blues Brothers, give it a watch. If you like that kind of music, blues music, I think you'll really enjoy it. If you like, a bit of a yarn, really, they've got to pay this tax bill for the orphanage, and they just do whatever they have to do and turn over whoever they have to turn over to get to it. So it's not a bad story. It's not a bad film. If it wasn't for the flying car nonsense right at the end, as I believe the Bluesmobile was supposed to be featured more and given more of a story than it was. So if we'd have had the backstory for earlier on in the film, the flying car bit might have made more sense, but we didn't, so it doesn't. But yeah, the soundtrack is awesome. John Lee Hooker does a turn, so that's good. Plenty of singing and dancing. Happy days. Good film. 5 coffee cups, solid hot coffee cups. The Blues Brothers. Give it a watch. If you've seen it and you enjoyed it, feel free to comment. If you've seen it but didn't enjoy it, then feel free to comment. If you couldn't care either way and you're not interested at all, then do what you want to do with it. Comment or don't. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Take it easy, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.